So this is a follow-up video to the previous example. We still have a vector of colors, and I've made some small changes here. Now this is good programming practice in general, whether you're using arrays or vectors. I've created a variable, a const variable, read-only variable called size, and I've initialized that to 7. And then instead of hard-coding a 7 here, like I did in the previous example, in the previous video, I'm creating this vector to not a hard-coded 7, but to size. And it's still giving me 7 elements, of course, because size has a value of 7. And then I've also coded the loop to go size a number of times as opposed to a hard-coded number. And this is useful because let's say this wasn't a rainbow, it was maybe a box of crayons or something, and I wanted to keep adding more and more colors to the vector. I can do that. So, here, for example, if I say colors let's see, now I'm up to 7, and I'll just add like black or white or gray or something like that. And, okay, so here's the thing. I now have 8 colors in my vector, and so all I need to do is change this one number up at the top to 8, and the rest of the program just falls into place. I don't have to worry about changing everything else. Before I would have had to change the number, the hard-coded number in 2 places, and it's not a big deal in a program like this, but real-world programs are, thousands and sometimes millions of lines long. So if you have a loop referencing that vector size or array size, whatever you're using, and you have that loop, you're looping all over all kinds of references to that size throughout the program, then every time you make a change to that size, you have to pick through and make sure you update all the references, all the numbers. So that's one way of handling that, is just, it's just good practice to take these little steps in advance and make your life easier in the long run in maintaining that code. Okay, there's another interesting function for adding elements to a vector, and it's called the pushback function. So let's say, I'm keeping the size at 8. I'm not going to touch this number anymore in this video, but I'm going to keep adding elements. I'm going to keep adding values. So for example, I want to add white and gray. Okay, so I can say colors dot pushback, and I'm going to add white, and then I'm going to add gray. This is the pushback function, and what this will do is allow you to add an element to the end of the vector. Just what I want to do here. I want to add these colors to the end of the vector and not have to worry about size. So what this does is it'll add the value, the element, and then also resize the vector while it's at it, right? So I originally created a vector of 8 elements, but now I've got up to 10 in here. Now I have to be careful with this because the loop is still going size number of times. So if I run it right now, it's only going to print up to black. It's going to exclude those 2 pushbacks that I did, even though they are part of the vector. What you can do, this is another function. It's the size function of the vector. So the vector is called colors, and it has this size. Wait, where is it? Here, size with a. C++ is case sensitive, so be careful here. So it would be size, and with the parentheses, which we'll understand what these parentheses are for in the next chapter. But this will get the actual size of the vector as it stands right now. And as it stands right now, it's 10 because we've got all these 10 colors in there. And then it will print all of my colors. So, this is what I had mentioned. I was going to discuss this in the last video. I didn't get to it. The reason vectors are preferable to arrays is because of this type of flexibility. The array doesn't have a pushback function that'll allow you to resize it. So vectors are a lot more dynamic. You can resize them at runtime. And they're less prone to, having your program blow up, to be quite honest. Let me say this. The other night I was teaching arrays, And I wanted to show the class what would happen if I wrote a loop that would go too many times, and more times than I had elements in the array. So I was basically writing a loop to walk off the edge of an array. All right, so let's say I did 15. I'll code this loop to go 15 times. I only have 10 elements in the vector. So this loop is going to go 10 times. Now, what happened when I ran this with an array in class, everything just froze. I mean, I was expecting the program to bomb, but everything just completely froze to the point where my machine was not responsive, and I had to shut down and end class early. That's how disastrous it was. Now, with the vector, and I was in online GDB when this happened, by the way, but with the vector, what happened is it printed the items, and then it, gave me this error. It's called out of range, meaning the index was out of range. But it's certainly not a disaster like I had the other night. So vectors are just safer and certainly more flexible.